7:02.
We're on now. Good. We can have people watching me.
You've got the agenda.
I got the agenda. Okay, fine.
You're good.
Friday mail. I just want to get the packet up.
Okay. Well, I'm happy
Okay,
to share it.
thank you, Joanna. Good evening, everybody. This is January 8th. It's a little after 7. We're in the municipal building in downtown Hanover, where we're going to do good work for the town and have fun at it. The first item on our agenda is a couple of public hearings. So we're calling 2 public hearings, correct, Alex? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we have 2 different things that we need to accept, or we need to anticipate, we need to discuss accepting. So I'm going to open a public hearing to accept anticipated funds in the amount of $76,195.02 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation, representing a special one-time highway payment. So this is a public hearing, and the public is invited to speak in just 2 seconds, where we can. This first one, there are 2 of these public hearings, so I'm trying to get them organized. This is the one that has to do with our
highway block grant.
They both are.
And the other one's bridge, but related.
Right.
Yeah.
It has to do with, this is a one-time payment between all New Hampshire municipalities based on a municipality's mileage of Class 6 and Class 5 highways, Class 4 and Class 5 highways, as well as municipalities' population pursuant to Block Grant Aid Apportionment A. And how Hanover's payment was calculated to be the sum I spoke about earlier. And we got a letter from the Department of Transportation in this regard. Is there any select board comment on it before we open it to the public?
I move that we accept the unanticipated funds in the amount of $76,195.02 from the State of New Hampshire DOT, which represents the one-time special payment.
Great. Is there a second?
So second.
Wonderful. Any select board comment before we open to the public?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I support accepting these funds, but with the acknowledgement that we should be applying our complete streets policy passed by the select board in 2017 when we spend these funds.
Absolutely. I neglected to look up what a Class 4 and a Class 5 highway. Those are secondary and tertiary roads, not Class 6 highways, which are the abandoned
trails,
roads. Right.
Yeah.
So what's a Class 5 highway? That must be like a small local.
It's probably like Carriage Lane.
Probably is like
and I think Lime Road might, not Lime Road, but like River Road might be connecting 2 towns as Class 4.
I see.
I think that's how it works, but
Okay.
we could get clarification.
Yeah, it doesn't quite.
It's not quite that.
It doesn't match up exactly with like the federal like arterial versus local, but it's very close, and basically 4 are slightly bigger than 5.
Wonderful.
And not as small as 6.
Yes, exactly.
Is there any comment from the public regarding this being a public hearing in this topic?
Ooh, pick me.
Please, could you come up to the microphone and state your name?
Talking to the mic.
I gotta say also, oh my god, this room is kind of awesome. So.
It was an old courtroom.
Yeah.
Oh
Which is why we sit here with this crazy.
And judge you, yes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, welcome you.
What am I being charged of?
Nothing.
And that
Go ahead.
it helps the CATV. It doesn't amplify things in the room.
Okay. So wait, does this work?
You're perfect. Keep going.
Just keep going.
So, hey guys, my name is Evan Grossman. I'm a 27 at Dartmouth. I just have a quick public comment from my good friend Nicholas Marachi. He is the vice chair of the Hanover Bike Walk Committee. And so he says, after the Hanover Bike Walk Committee's November 13th meeting,
Wait, does this have to do with the block grant from the Department of Transportation?
Oh, no.
Can you wait like 10 more minutes when we get, not even, it'll be 5 minutes when we get to public comment. Is that okay? Just stay right there. Don't go anywhere. I don't think we're going to get any other public comment. Seeing none, I'm going to call for a vote on the motion as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So just hang right there, okay? We have another public hearing, which I'm going to open, and this is to accept unanticipated funds in the amount of $64,025.85 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation, representing a special one-time bridge payment. So
I'd like to make a motion that we do so, and I won't repeat everything wonderful that you just said, except that it's in excess of $65,000.
64.
64,
almost 65. Is
Yeah,
there a
there
second?
you go. One-time bridge payment.
Second.
So the purpose of this is the Department of Transportation is required to divide and distribute a $10 million one-time payment between all New Hampshire municipalities that have municipally owned bridges. 50% of the distribution is based on the municipality's percentage of statewide bridge deck surface, and the remaining 50% is based on the municipality's percentage of statewide population. And ours was calculated to be approximately $64,000. Is there any select board comment?
Yes. I have a similar comment that we apply our complete streets and really think seriously about some of these ways of taking our little bridges in rural areas and still allocating space. And there's a lot of precedent, particularly in Maine, where they basically make a little advisory lane on the bridge, which tends to be how people drive over it anyway, which is like down the center. And they basically turn the bridges into one lane bridges
Kind of like
and
Valley Road.
allocate space on either side so that people can still, walk their dog and get to their neighbor's house, even though they're separated by a tiny bridge.
Okay.
So that's
We should make sure that goes into the minutes, please. Our wonderful minute taker. Is there any other comment from the select board? And any public comment? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that passes. So now we are going to go to public comment. And we have a policy with respect to public comment that this pertains to, the discussion centers on issues not related to other agenda items or agenda items already on the agenda. And two, that the commentator please restrict their time to 5 minutes, and if there are any questions, please address them to the chair, and I will decide whether or not we're going to address them. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
So this is just on behalf of, again, Nicholas Marachi, friend on the Bike Walk Committee. So he says, after the Hanover Bike Walk Committee's November 13th meeting, the committee sent a detailed letter requesting that the select board appoint new members onto the committee given the recent turnover. This was the culmination of months of reorganization effort that the committee had worked on since June. This is clearly listed out when each member's terms were supposed to expire, and quoted the committee's newly adopted bylaws explaining how, despite these seats being 3-year terms, some of the term expiration dates would be sooner. That in order to align with the town's election cycle, and in order to stagger term expirations so new members could join the committee at a regular pace. The agenda for the Select Board's December 16th meeting contained errors that did not accurately capture the request as written by the committee in their letter, including leaving out the term expiration dates and forgetting to appoint one of the respective prospective members. The committee communicated to the town manager and the Select Board that these errors occurred immediately after the Select Board agendas were published, but did not receive a response prior to that Select Board meeting. Today, the Select Board's agenda includes an item to appoint this forgotten prospective member, but the Select Board should take this opportunity to correct the term expiration dates of the members that it appointed on December 18th. The committee reached out again today requesting that this error be corrected, so they would greatly appreciate the Select Board issuing this correction so that the committee's reorganization work can come to a close and not consume further time at committee meetings. Select Board Member Chamberlain will be happy to answer any questions on this matter and can ensure that a Select Board motion correcting this error is correctly written. So we ask that the Select Board ask for her input. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to this request from being accurately completed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evan.
So we're getting to this later under,
We can just,
appointment. Yeah, we can do it now.
it's under the consent
It's under the
agenda.
consent agenda. So I'm just looking at the email.
So there's 1-year term and 3-year terms. But the start of the 3-year terms are staggered so that we don't turn over our entire committee all at once.
Okay.
So they're just term ends. So when we appointed everyone for like a 3-year term, there
Yep.
might be some confusion when we go to like post when the term ends, unless we actually adopt when the term ends. So I don't think it's like technically incorrect, they're filling a 3-year seat, but the idea is to put in the term ends so that there's consistency when we post it on the website.
So I was given, Jenny, you sent me an email earlier today with,
I have like the term ends for all of the members.
are the people correct, first of all?
The people are correct, except that Rob Hausman was left off, which is
Right.
why he's
He's on
the
later,
agenda
okay.
today. Yeah.
All right, we should enter these into
The
the
record.
record. Should I just read them? Should I just send it to?
So if we want to, from a procedural standpoint, you should vote on making the appointments. If it wasn't done correctly the first time, we should make sure it's set up correctly the second time. I think the challenging part, though, is that I don't think you can create a 3-year term and then appoint somebody to that term 12 months into the term. Like I don't think you can set a retroactive date as the start of the term. So typically, at least what I've seen, the way that committees will create a staggered term process is they will create different initial terms for the appointment of members, and those will be 1, 2, and 3 years, for example, and then when those expire, everybody's appointed to a 3-year term after that.
I think that's what, for example, the first person listed has a term ending June 2024, and there are others with 2025 and others with 2026.
So
it seems appropriate.
Yeah, I think there was, except that those are all listed as 3-year terms, and they're all being appointed on the same night.
No, they were described as filling a 3-year seat.
But when were the last appointments made for those seats?
So I think I would move that we appoint the people in accordance with the term ends with the understanding that they're all 3-year terms, and that they're 3-year terms, but they are starting incrementally, where
well, the first
one
one
is a start date to the term and an end date, and so
the start date will be whenever we appoint them, and then they get sworn in, right?
Right. It's just that if you appoint someone to a 3-year term now, that term can't expire.
Yeah.
Right. So
we could just not talk about the year term. Then,
that's what I was going to
and just
suggest.
focus on the term end.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yes.
Is that okay? It seems.
Yeah.
Well, just for the first person, for example, we'll have a 6-month term.
Right.
And the bylaws support
That's a good question.
that.
Yeah. They do. They're
It's fun.
included.
Yeah.
But so you can appoint anyone to any term lengths. It doesn't have to be 3 years. I just want to make sure there's consistency.
No, there's a seat.
That's vacant.
And the term ends are written for the first terms in the bylaws, and then how long the terms are written. I don't know. Tracy said they were fine, the bylaws.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I trust that they were good. They were modeled supposedly after other boards' bylaws from our town. I don't know, because I haven't received those bylaws. I'd love to see the bylaws from the boards and commissions that have bylaws. But, yeah. Is there a question of whether we have bylaws, or the question whether we can appoint people with term ends?
Just usually in a set of bylaws, you if you're trying to do staggered terms, you would set up an initial term, right? And people would get appointed. Half the third would get appointed to a 1-year term, a third a 2-year term, and a third a 3-year term. And then you'd say in the bylaws that then the terms are 3 years ongoing. So perhaps you've done that in the past, and we just don't have the documentation, or perhaps not. I mean, I don't think it makes a huge difference either way. But
in general,
I would just.
What?
We were just trying to clean up and do these things a little more technically correct. And
Yeah,
so if you appoint
Tracy
someone to a
said
3-year
that
term
our
on
bylaws
December
were
16th.
solid.
Yeah.
So should I be sending the bylaws to someone else?
What?
Tracy Walsh said that the bylaws look good. Is there something somebody else said we should be sending them to?
I'm not sure that when you sent that to her, you pointed out this question to ask her about. So
I didn't
can't speak
anticipate
to
your question.
that. No, but if you're trying to appoint people to staggered terms,
Alex, is there a large problem if we, for example, right now create different, can we just appoint these people with the term ends as they're listed?
I mean, because really you're appointing someone in a term the term is for a length of time that has a start date and an end date.
So I move that today we appoint the members of the Hanover Bike Walk Committee with end dates per the email, which are staggered over the course of 3 years. So it could be 6 months, it could be 18 months, it could be...
5 are for 6 months, 3 are for 18 months, and 2 are for
30 months.
So these are basically filling unexpired terms.
Yeah.
Well, this was also following the select board discussion
Yeah, right.
agreement that
Understood.
they should all end in June so that we could maybe just do this all together.
Yep.
So,
I think it works.
Yep. So that's my motion is,
Is there a second?
I second.
do you want to
We may need
state
to-
those names?
Sure. Joanna Whitcomb is the select board alternate, term ending June 2024. Kate Hawkins, term ending June 2024. How do you pronounce Nicholas's last name?
Macri.
Nicholas Macri, vice chair, term ending, I can't say the vice chair, but term ending June 2024. Bill Young, term ending June 2024. We have to appoint Rob Houseman, so it's a separate action. We will do that shortly. Jenny?
We can't appoint them now?
Sure, that wasn't part of the motion, but we can amend that, I suppose. What was
Well, she said all the names in the email. They're definitely...
Rob Houseman will be for a term ending June 2024. Jenny Chamberlain, term ending June 2025. David Anderson, term ending June 2025. Laura Acker, term ending June 2025. Scott Drysdale, term ending June 2026. Hugh Mellert, term ending June 2026. Scott and Hugh are hanging in there. Gosh, and Bill, golly gee. They've been on the committees.
Very long.
Back when I was on the committee.
Yeah.
Very long.
And they're wonderful people, as is everybody. So we need an amendment appointing Rob Houseman.
It's a friendly amendment to appoint Rob Houseman as part of this. I mean, I would entertain a friendly amendment. I amend my motion. I amend my motion to include Rob Houseman. So we're making these
I second
appointments.
it.
We're
Okay.
making these appointments per Athos, for what you said.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Done. Thanks for coming in, Evan.
Thank you. Evan.
Hey, anytime. Hopefully I'll be back.
You're welcome anytime.
You're welcome to stay for the meeting.
Yeah.
I gotta run. I will be back another time though. I mean, I will say I don't want to keep the other people waiting to,
Yeah, let the others in.
We welcome them.
We're already down to budget and finance update, Alex.
Great, so this should be a relatively short one. So on the budget side, we are just finalizing the operating and capital budget submissions from all the departments. So Alan and I actually spent a little bit of time on that today.
Have a great night, everyone.
Can I
Thank
do?
you.
We're working on getting that done. We're running a little bit behind, as I mentioned here, so we can get the capital stuff off to the CIPC. So that's in short order pretty important, as well as getting a sense of sort of where our initial landing is, and using that to inform a bunch of other discussions, especially about compensation. And so I'd say we're probably about 2 weeks behind. Overall, maybe closer to 3. And also we have a meeting with the Finance Committee on the 25th of the month to just kind of go over some updates and questions as well. So we look forward to that. On the FY22 audit, so this is several years back, we did receive the final draft of the audit last week. And there is one sort of statement that's outstanding that's required from one of the law firms that the auditors won't release the final version, the actual final version, until they get that back. And so we expect to have that in hand quite soon. And then Ellen will be here on the 22nd, and we'll give a little bit more of an update on the FY22 audit. And then once we close that out, we will move on to the FY23 audit, which should be a lot shorter. This one has taken us down some rabbit holes. Some of those things may be repeated on the FY23 audit, but a lot of the work has already kind of been done on that. So that one will take a little less than 2 or 3 years.
That's a timeline.
Yeah, that's the timeline to beat. So that's it.
Great. So our next meeting is, I don't have my computer. When's our next meeting?
22nd.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. And we should have the audit update for that meeting. And Ellen will be in that meeting as well.
Good.
Hopefully all the capital stuff will be to CIPC by then, and all of it will be to CIPC by then, and we'll on our side we'll have a little bit more. We'll have had a chance to sort of review some of the operating requests as well.
Okay. Thank
Carrie
you.
has a question.
I'm sorry, Carrie, please.
So by the 22nd, do you anticipate being able to address the undesignated fund balance 500,000 issue? I know I've mentioned it the last few meetings.
This is the question that Kari asked a couple meetings ago, or is this a different question?
No, it's a
This
question
part,
that
this Carrie.
a number of people have had. So on the $500,000 drop in the undesignated fund balance, which doesn't, in light of where the revenues and expenses came in, was a head scratcher. And I think a number of people said that's a head scratcher. And it was an issue look at the minutes for the last 2 meetings, I had asked. And so do you think by the 22nd we'll be in a position to answer that question?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex. Any other questions? So we'll move on to business requiring action. We're going to table the recommendation to adopt the Advisory Board of Assessors recommendation. I can't remember, do we need to vote to table something or not? I think we just table it, right?
I don't think so.
So till the 22nd?
Until the 22nd, yeah. And then we get to the consent agenda, and there's been a request to remove the banner, excuse me, pardon me. Item Roman number 5. So what we're left with is approval of minutes, appointment of election volunteers, which is wonderful. Recommendation to set polling hours and donations to the Etna Library.
We can pull the Hanover Bike Walk one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I have questions about the December 18th minutes.
Okay, then let's pull that too. So we're going to vote on, well, if there's a motion, appointment of the election volunteers for the 2024 New Hampshire presidential primary and 2024 Hanover Town Meeting election, polling hours for the presidential primary, and donations to the Etna Library.
I move we do so by consent agenda.
Awesome. And the polling hours, by the way, are 7 to 7.
Would you be willing to consider a friendly amendment?
Totally.
Unless there are issues pertaining to the minutes of December 11th, that could also be part of the consent agenda.
I think, oh, did you say the 18th? Oh,
I said the 18th.
Oh, I apologize. I missed that. Thank you, Carrie, for pointing that out. I don't have any issues with the 11th. Does
Nancy,
anybody?
are you okay with that friendly amendment?
Happy with it.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now let's discuss minutes from December 18th, which of course I don't have in front of me. Well, I did look at them though.
So on December 18th, we had a public hearing, and in the minutes, it says it's just a little confusing because it
What's it
says,
say, Joanne?
the third of 3 public hearings is scheduled regarding acquisition conveyance of the real estate in the town of Hanover pursuant to 4114A process. A vote will be held on December 18th, at which time the select board will authorize the town manager to execute the following properties, and it lists, all the properties. And then it talks about town council has reviewed the information provided. It's just, and I think it was just kind of pulled from the agenda, and it doesn't reflect what actually happened on the 18th, or maybe I'm misreading it, but I mean, this was the third of 3 public hearings. We did need to take a vote, and we voted on some of it. I recused myself for all the stuff relating to Dartmouth, and then we also had a discussion about the removal of the enforcement on 33 Goodfellow Road. So it's
What do you
a
suggest?
jumble.
I'm a little-
I think what I need to do is rewrite it. Unfortunately, I read it just before coming here. But it just does not, because this is legal action, it needs to be clear, because it's a conveyance. Because it's not really clear to me. So
So you
I
wanna
will
take-
take a
you wanna-
crack at
you
it.
wanna
I
take
don't know
it?
if anyone else had the same experience, but
I did, and I recognize that it was obviously copied over from the prior, from a prior meeting.
yep.
And the tenses were incorrect, but I didn't.
Well, I think I also, I want to be clearly recused because I did clearly recuse myself and I couldn't find that in here
No, it's
anywhere.
there. It's
It was there.
Bottom of page 1. Jay Whitcomb recused herself from the item.
But why don't,
The bottom of page 1?
Yeah. Very, under town council paragraph. Bottom left. We're looking at, I'm
No, it's
sorry,
not on page 1, it's on page-
Hang on,
Yeah,
that's
the
December
11th.
December 11th, I recused
Yeah,
myself,
okay,
and December 7th, December 18th
Okay,
is
what-
just kind of convoluted,
so
so
I
I'll
suggest,
take a crack at it.
I suggest we table this. Is that agreeable to everybody?
That sounds good.
Okay, so we're tabling the minutes from December 18th. We already, what else are we pulling? Oh, so the only other thing we pulled out was the banner request.
And the Hanover record, which is what we need to do in the book.
Right, we did already, yep. Carrie?
Yes, sorry.
So the banner request was from, I wish I had my packet, but I got my little iPhone
School
here.
of Arts.
Yeah.
New England School of the Arts.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And so my question there is that this is a private school, and based in Lebanon. And my question was whether we normally do this for private schools. Would we entertain banner requests for crossover, for instance, a private school in Lyme, another adjoining town?
Right, so
So
as I recall, do we have a written policy? Do we have a written policy? I thought we did, because this is not the first time this issue's come up. When do they want this up?
immediately.
I don't know if we have a written policy. We probably should.
I thought we did. I'm trying to rack my brain to remember it. In general, what we've always, we've had other organizations outside of Hanover. We have had private organizations.
A lot of fundraising, like Proudy, like, yeah.
I do recall one instance where this discussion came up before. It was an institution that's no longer around, but it was a private institution in Norwich that was doing something for the public, and we allowed them to come in. And they were not even in Hanover; they were in Norwich.
Well, fundraising for, Campaign Rings and Love, it's Hanover Improvement Society, but there was a banner, so, but I think you raised a good point.
It does,
Is it
absolutely.
a nonprofit?
Absolutely.
I think it is a nonprofit, but it's a private school outside of the town. I think it's worth investigating to see if there's a policy in the records? Is that something that?
We weren't aware of any.
Yeah.
We didn't spend time to.
That would be a tough find.
More further, but.
I mean, I think in the past, we have questioned, remember us all sitting here saying, why are we reviewing every single banner request? And then that came as a liability issue. I mean, that's my recollection, is that the select board has to assume the liability of the banner going across the road, the fire department putting it up, and then the banner, our guys putting up, our people putting up banners on the street
Have
poles.
no commercial advertisement of any kind on banners, including sponsor logo.
What are you reading, Jenny?
This is our Main Street banner request form.
I thought we had one. Oh, it's the form. It's the form.
Well, it's like the,
And just FYI,
Yeah.
the thing that's in front of us isn't for a banner, it's for a light post. Banner, it's not for the across the street banner.
But I would presume that the same philosophy might apply.
Yeah, I would assume.
Or we could make it apply.
Okay.
I mean, we could adopt that policy, right? I mean, if that's how we feel.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, could you repeat the language on the banner request? Sorry.
sorry.
You were there.
It was just the no commercial advertisement, so that would not apply to a not-for-profit, including sponsor logos. So say the Proudy banner can't have all the great corporate sponsorships like on that banner.
It seems
Has
like
been how we've done it.
It seems like this one does fit in according to that.
Well, it's not actually in an event. So if they wanted to advertise an event that is in the public interest, like they're using as examples here, Talk on Social Courage by Cindy Pierce, and she's doing it for the New England School of Arts, or if they were advertising the photo exhibit or a day-long choral festival with, by the school, then that would be okay. But advertising the school, it feels like you're advertising the school versus, right? Is that what you're saying?
For maybe enrollment purposes. It's nothing against the
school
institution at all.
Right.
But I mean, then,
Sure.
So, but there are lots of actually great institutions in Lebanon. There's the Ava Gallery. There's the Lebanon Opera House. They're all great. But do they all have the ability to post things here? What are the filters that we use? I think event specific might make a difference. Open to the public makes a difference. Private institution accepting tuition students. I think that starts to become, regardless of whether or not profit, not for profit. I'm not sure that makes a difference.
So do we think that if this School for the Arts were to have an art exhibit or a choral concert that they might ask for in mid-March or something, we might have a different answer for them?
Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you feel, Jenny? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a little, I don't know what it means to sort of generally just like, I was trying to cycle through the banners I've seen, whether they just like advertise like a thing, like an idea, or if it was always an event. They tend to be event.
They do.
But I don't know.
Except if you go down to the athletic, down East Wheelock Street and along South Park, Dartmouth Athletics has banners, and it just happens to be a woman playing volleyball, or
But that's on
someone.
their property.
Those are all town lights.
They're town lights.
They're all those banners are town lights. Dartmouth has a special, but those are like location specific, I guess you could say, and like the Hood has them in front of the Hood Museum saying, hey, this is where we are located. That's a directional one, is promoting the museum. But Dartmouth has them all over. And
But they tie into the physical location.
Right.
Right, and so.
Yeah.
And we as a Hanover Downtown Business Alliance have kind of said, and we've just sort of been putting them up anytime there is a, when.
Let's celebrate.
When the Proudy ends, then we say, hey guys, we now have free parking every day after 5 and all day Sunday. And we've just been putting them up whenever there is a pause in the action. Or we have a banner that says, and the rec department has been helping us create these banners.
Yep.
Hey guys, did you know that there are 22 restaurants within a 10-minute walk of where you're standing?
Yep. So.
But again, Hanover specific tying
Yes,
into the
yes.
physicality.
To the activity and the physical, yeah.
I mean, the thing that strikes me is that it's left to the board. That's the other thing, that like.
It always is.
Yeah, it's just.
Yep.
Like for some kind of reason.
So, I mean, Jenny, we could take what's there and make it more explicit. Mm-hmm. So it's more clear, and on this particular one, I think I'm getting the sense that everyone
Wants to write to the
Like,
school
does
and
it
deny
feel
the
like-
request.
Commercial advertisement.
not
I'd love to see
commercial
them have an
advertising.
event.
Yeah, we should make that clear in
That was
a
open to the
letter to
public.
them.
It's open to the public rather
Right.
than a commercial advertisement in the school.
I think that was a good catch.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Alex?
Yeah, so what would you like from our perspective, from the staff side?
A letter to
Clarity
the
in that
school.
policy.
Yeah, clarity in the policy.
So
and a
maybe
letter to
it's
the school.
the over Main Street banner and the street pole,
The street pole has
the same language.
yeah.
And so maybe we need to.
I mean, maybe what we're responding to is this sense of commercial advertisement, even though it's for a not-for-profit.
Yeah, so.
If they could change it and come up with an event that's open for everybody, that would.
If it were event specific, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we do this for KUA.
Right.
So if we wouldn't do it for KUA,
Right, no, I think we need to be consistent. So I think we
Okay. I believe we need to vote on this. Is there a motion?
What about?
We do need to vote. Is there a motion?
yes, move to deny request of, for a light pole banner for the New England School of the Arts, with regret based on our interpretation of existing and evolving policy.
Friendly amendment, accompanied by a letter. I mean, not only do we deny them, but a letter describing what our policy is and that we invite other requests based upon event specific items, because you mentioned in your request, you do choral side, you do art exhibits, so forth and so on. So that they know we're not just being arbitrary.
Like events open to the public.
Correct. And they in fact said in their letter to us that many of their activities include Hanover residents, and I believe Hanover teenagers are involved in this school, so.
yeah. I do think.
Okay, that was a big amendment.
Well, I mean, I do think that there's only so many banners, and I do feel like we're trying to, promote downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And so the priority should be downtown stuff versus, the spring performance at KUA or the art exhibit at the New England
And there are just
School
so
of Art.
many schools too.
Yeah,
Crossroads is
yeah,
not
Crossroads.
close.
yeah,
A lot of Hanover kids go there.
yep.
Let's write to them. I am in favor of writing to them, spelling this out and see what happens.
Okay.
So there's a.
So we have an amendment.
And there's a proposal for a letter. So we have a motion made and a friendly amendment, but we don't have a second.
Whoops.
Sure, we don't. I can second that. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. So who's going to write the letter?
Just as a follow-up, yeah, Alex, is that something that you and or John could work on, a letter, a policy?
So is the idea, I mean, we would probably normally reach out to an organization, just let them, over the phone or something and let them know. But you would like a letter outlining, like capturing this conversation?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm also fine with starting out with the informality and it sounds so much more cordial to be phoning them and talking to them.
Right.
Yep.
And let them know that the denial is basically based on that they could resubmit a request for something that was more so directly highlighting an event or resource that was open to the public.
Yeah.
Is that the general?
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think I'm fine with a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to revote.
I don't think so. It's been educational. I did not know of this institution, and now I do.
Yeah.
Which is great. Okay.
You want to read the donation?
Where are we?
Yeah.
I think you usually read the donation.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. Yes, I was going to do that. If anybody can find them quicker than I can, please read them.
You want me to read them out loud?
Please, go ahead, Jenny.
Okay. The Etna Library has received the following donations. The Etna Ladies Aid for $500. Jerry and Pat Balkan for $100. Virginia F. Stillman Kirshner for $500. And Peregrine Spiegel for $500. And we are very, very grateful for all these wonderful donations.
Thanks, Jenny. And, wow, we're really cruising along here. I'm not complaining. Town manager report, please.
Nothing for this meeting.
Excellent. Select board reports. I think we started there last time, so Joanna?
I have nothing to report at this time.
I'm trying to remember if I do. I don't
think
I
I've met.
do.
It's kind of this blur from around the 21st of
Yeah, it's been a
December
blur.
until about today.
There's a Conservation Commission meeting Wednesday, which I will report on later, because I can't report now.
On
Nancy.
behalf of your planning board, just to let you know that we are busily considering zoning amendments, and Rob Hausman and Alex Taft are working overtime because every time the planning board meets, they have 5 more questions than the 2 issues that they were asked to consider. So it's mostly zoning amendments that are taking their time, and just to let everyone know that the planning board has now switched to a 7 p.m. rather than a 7:30 p.m. starting time. So all of your public meetings here in Town Hall in the main room will be meeting at 7 o'clock if you want to come join us.
And the planning board will be hosting a public hearing in February.
Right.
12th?
Yes.
The public hearing to adopt the 2024 Sustainability Master Plan.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes, thank you. And February 6th is our next public general meeting, and we are meeting again on the
So maybe it's the
actually, I
13th.
think it's the 6th. We also are hosting.
February 13th is the
Yes.
public hearing for the master plan.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
The master plan adoption on February 13th,
It's a hearing.
it's a hearing,
Hearing.
and then it's
Public
voted upon at a town meeting. So any.
No, it's
there are
not.
2,
No,
I
okay.
think there'll be 2 public hearings, is this correct?
mhm.
There'll be 2 public hearings, and then the planning board
Adopts.
votes on whether to adopt it.
I see.
So maybe I should read into the minutes the announcement, if that's okay?
Please.
The Hanover Planning Board has drafted a proposed new sustainability master plan with chapters addressing future land use, expanding housing opportunity, fostering inclusive economic resilience, preserving our character, advancing multimodal transportation, promoting downtown vibrancy, addressing climate change, improving health and well-being for all, and being accountable and collaborative. Pursuant to RSA 675:6, the Hanover Planning Board will hold a public hearing on the adoption of the new master plan. Following the hearing, the board will consider adoption of the new plan. The hearing will be held on Tuesday, February 13th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in this here boardroom at the town offices. You can also attend via Zoom, and there's a Zoom link. An implementation chapter will be adopted later in the spring. Then the planning board will work on that. And it does not require a town meeting vote.
And then the one other thing for all the people watching on television, if you want to see a hard copy and get your hands on this draft master plan, first of all, you can get a digital copy at the Sustainable Hanover Sustainability Master Plan website, which is linked to from the town website, or you can get a paper copy at the Hanover Library, the Etna Library, the Planning Office, the Richmond Middle School Library, or the Hanover High Library.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
Just one other question. So you mentioned that Rob Hausman and company are furiously working on zoning. Are they associated with the master plan, or are they independent of that?
No, they're, excuse me, they're independent of that because the zoning amendments are so very specific, you know, A height, A setback, I mean, it's all minutia.
Well, I mean, some of it links to it.
Related.
Some of it links to it. Some of the changes
clearly.
do.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. But the specific language that's being taken to the citizens is very direct. And the planning board members keep wanting to really make sure that language is what they want.
Yeah, but it comes from the master plan.
Oh, absolutely.
I see.
The
Okay.
zoning
But it's not a
amendments-
direct, I mean, it's not like the big overhaul of the zoning, which is anticipated in the future.
That's correct.
I see. Okay.
The zoning board amendments
Yes.
will be presented, being presented to the planning board now. The planning board will decide whether to have a public hearing about them and whether they're going to vote on them and have them sent to public meetings. Other zoning amendments can be petitioned to be put up, but that is what is, the zoning amendments are voted on. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just thinking the master plan is a huge deal, and there are probably cascading potential changes that come out of it. I'm just kind of curious as to how much is intended for this town meeting versus subsequent town meetings. It sounds like maybe a
That's a good
little
question.
bit, but the bulk of it's down the road.
Right.
That's a good
Right.
question, Karen.
Okay.
It's the bulk of it because the town plan will be, in theory, adopted in February. Zoning hearings for the town vote in May have to happen before April, but not before February. So like the planning board is discussing them with staff and all that now, is my understanding. And then there'll be scheduled public hearings with the exact language for the zoning changes sometime. They all have to be done before April 9th or April 7th or something like that. And then they go, if the planning board approves them, or there's a petition for a zoning change, that has to go on the town warrant, and we all vote on May 14th.
Okay. Thank you.
And you're right in your perception, Carrie, that the master plan is a big deal and has a lot of big ideas, some of which are very kind of game-changing for the town, which is why it's a 10-year plan, it's not a 10-month plan.
Right.
And so all of that is going to take a lot of talking with citizens, getting citizens to buy into some of these more ambitious plans. So it's, yeah, something that rightfully should take time.
Thank you.
Good discussion, thank you. Jenny, you're done, right, Nancy? Okay. Jenny.
To get to a little other business.
Oh, thank you. Wait.
Should we do that separately? Or you can do it now.
We'll do it right now. Let's make what, Joanna?
Aren't you asking for committee reports? Or is
I am.
what this is gonna be doing? Part of a committee report?
Sure, this really is under other business because we're asked for, it's not a report, we're asked to actually act on it. So
But
let's.
we didn't do other business.
We didn't do other business, so let's create another business portion. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, for other business, Hanover Bike Walk asked that you consider writing this letter. And basically, the committee has gotten, input from people who have noticed there's a wide expanse over the Ledyard Bridge with not adequate bike lanes. And while NHDOT has plans to put bike lanes in, there was this thought, and we ran it by planning and DPW to basically say, can we ask them to just put the traffic lanes in the center and have buffered bike lanes? And the change is they were going to have a median on the bridge. That median is now not going back and is going to be, with the plan right now is just to paint that median, which is just like kind of wasted space in the middle of the bridge. And the idea is you move that out. That's one of the ideas. Do you have a question?
I don't want to interrupt your discussion. Keep going, I'll talk at the end.
Okay, so that does a couple things. The most obvious is it separates people in cars from people on bikes, and making it much more comfortable to bike over the bridge and avoid the grates, for which we have a lot of complaints. It also, like our calmer roads, like the rest of Wheelock, puts the vehicles together, which tends to just make them drive more carefully and slower. So it's sort of a natural traffic calming. The second ask, and I think DPW has already reached out to NHDOT about this, but is to solidify the request that the pedestrian crossing that was put just to this side of the bridge, that it remain. That was put in as a temporary pedestrian crossing because when they close the sidewalk on one side of the bridge, they're required by ADA requirements to maintain a safe crossing for pedestrians. We close the bridge routinely, and it's closed right now on one side of the bridge. So it's actually very important that we maintain that safe crossing. So the ask is for that NHDOT, not as is stated in their contract that they rip that out at the end of the project, but that they just leave it. And so they put in like nice tip downs and a pedestrian flasher. DPW had some thoughts on how it might even be improved with a little island or something, but the idea is just to ask that rather than follow what they say they're going to do, which is to take it out, that they just leave it. So those are the two asks.
Jenny, I do remember when we first talked to DOT about this project, and they never intended to put the physical medians back. So that was gone with their initial plan.
It was, and then it came back.
It came back?
Yeah, because we were going to ask for this originally, and they were like, oh no, the median, well, according to DPW, it was going to come back. I think Pete was closer to what they were doing. And then now it's not coming back. Because originally it was going to be gone. Because that was the reason the membrane was compromised.
Yes. Yeah.
But then somewhere in the planning it was back. And at that same time, the construction was also never going to go beyond Old Tuck Drive, which it also did. Which was why they didn't consider that intersection either, because we were hoping for some improvements to that intersection, because it is where people on bicycles have been hit.
So what do you mean by a buffered lane?
A buffered means there's space between the lane and the vehicle lane, the bike lane and the vehicle lane. It's typically done also just with paint. So like the ask is like, paint these lines instead of those lines. It's not, there has to be some, you know, design money to move the lanes from here to there and move the middle stripages from here to be split in two and there conceptually. You know, somebody has to do that on paper first.
It's not very complicated.
No, it's not a big ask.
Were they,
And
the lanes right now are strange.
well, they were
Are
mid-project.
they gonna,
Well, I think it needs to be resurfaced still.
okay,
Like they did like they didn't do that top layer yet.
okay,
And so what happens with striping is, you know, you can redo striping whenever. It's just way easier if you don't have to grind out the old striping and you do it the way you prefer it to begin with. Which is why we're like, oh, they have like 4 months before they'll actually consider putting paint down. If we get them to think about it now, they can maybe actually do it.
Karen.
So the crossing is where Old Tuck Drive, is that what the crossing is?
It's just on the, sorry, my
East or
east
west?
side
East of it,
Old Tuck Drive.
further up the hill from
Right,
Old
okay,
Tuck Drive.
right.
Is there a flasher there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's actually West Street, is it not?
no.
No.
No, you're talking about the other one farther
There's
up.
Okay.
there's another crossing at West Street.
No, it's a really good,
With an
it's a really
island.
good
Huge
cross.
improvement.
That is wonderful.
Huge.
So it's also for those people who are biking and want to take what's supposed to be a lower stress bicycle route up Old Tuck Drive. Right now, our
Just let's
people who
stay
are not
focused on
confident
the bridge.
bicycling, who would make use of that, can't make that left turn
Yeah.
from the
Right.
left.
Yep.
And now they would have an option to press a button and cross. But it's also being used by pedestrians right now.
Yep. Okay.
So
what would be the reasons not to do this? What, does anyone lose in this transaction?
My feeling is it never hurts to ask, and it would improve safety of pedestrians and bikers across the board in New Hampshire and Vermont.
yeah, and the second reason is just that because the main Wheelock district is poised to get a bunch more housing and we want it to be like walkable and connected to the downtown.
Yeah.
Making that clear from the bottom of the hill is very important. So there was a thought that this would help add to any gateway concept. Yeah. And any plans that Dartmouth has been forming to create more of a multimodal plan along that corridor.
As well as the town
And
and
the town.
other developers in the corridor, so.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
I do too.
Yep.
I've been worried about that ever since they first talked to us about it.
bridge.
Because
Yeah.
it was safer for pedestrians and cyclists before they touched it.
Oh, now it's a little nutty.
Now it's crazy.
There
I always assumed
was
it's
a
gonna be better.
moment when like half the bridge was closed,
Yeah.
but you could bike across it and you could basically have a completely protected lane, which
Yeah.
was great. But no, it's not.
Just from,
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, that bridge should definitely have bike lanes. It's really silly the way it's sort of set up, although I don't think it's done. But I would just suggest, or offer 2 cents that we should just have Pete reach out to them. And I would just suggest generally,
Yeah,
and specifically
Pete thought-
reserving, letters from the sign select board as sort of like an escalation to an issue.
Yeah, Pete thought because they already have their drawings that
That it was
his
further
reaching
along.
out was not going to be very effective. Though he reached out earlier about the pedestrian crossing,
Right.
that's what.
Jenny, did you talk to Pete about this?
I didn't talk to Pete, Rob talked to Pete. I talked to Rob about, because this was at Hanover Bike Walk
Okay.
and Pete was on vacation, but then Rob was able to talk to Pete.
So they're
So that's
on board.
second.
So
no one's against this plan because it
DPW
doesn't
and planning
like,
are on board.
yeah, it doesn't like change capacity, for.
Did they review this letter?
Rob did today.
So I
So-
think we had communicated slightly different language with NHDOT about where the pedestrian crossing was supposed to be.
The pedestrian crossing's already there.
The one that NHDOT put in,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, but yeah, that would just be my suggestion, was just that Pete reach out on behalf of the select board, and if we don't get anything back, then to write a letter, but.
yeah,
But I would
Pete
suggest if
suggested that wasn't gonna work. So that's why we drafted a letter today. So I was proposing that, I'm bringing it here on behalf of Hanover Bike Walk with the strong recommendation that we send a letter to the select board.
From
I
the
mean, from the
select
select board, yeah.
Should we just make sure that Pete's on board with it too, before we?
I would certainly recommend
Yeah.
that before sending a
Yeah.
letter to the NHDOT.
I'm totally in favor of this. Can we just clear it with Pete before we do it?
Yeah, the actual letter?
Yeah.
Okay, but when are we gonna sign it then? 2 weeks?
How about if we?
No, I mean, we can sign it now and just,
That's what I was gonna say.
we can sign it now and give it to Pete. And he
Yeah.
can send it after he talks to the DOT
Yeah,
or
okay,
AOT.
And if Pete doesn't think it's okay, then
He doesn't send it.
he doesn't.
that's
He
fine.
tells us,
Yeah.
he comes back to us in
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
Pete'll do that.
yeah, I think he just thought it was a waste of time for him to reach out with no other,
Okay. So what
He
we're
has
gonna
our
do,
support.
what we're gonna do is vote on this. If we approve it, we make sure it goes to Pete before anything happens. And if Pete isn't approving of it, then it doesn't get sent out.
Nothing's gonna happen in the next 2 weeks anyway, right? It's not like.
no, but they need to, somebody has to redraw the lines if they are going to do it.
Well, they're not gonna do it till April.
Jane
Oh, you
said
mean on
if the-
paper?
If the
Yeah.
Oh,
paper,
paper.
if the paper maps
Yeah.
are there.
The sooner we tell them, the better.
Yeah,
There you go.
I mean, the
Yeah,
last
I-
time we wrote to NHDOT, they took, about this bridge, I mean, Bill Stefan was really nice, because I'm really sorry it took so long, but we really wanted to consider this. And they did, they added like much fatter bike lanes, but it took 4 months. So if it takes that long again, then we are into that time, you know, so. And they have their full processes as well.
Yes, they do. Does that seem okay, Alex?
Yeah, I think as long as Pete reviews.
As long as Pete reviews it, I totally agree. Okay, so is there a motion?
I move that we sign the letter and send it to Pete for review.
Okay.
So second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Jenny, do you have anything else under select board reports?
We were really happy to see the speed limit lowered between the roundabouts in December, and then the school zone flashers lowered to 15 miles an hour on Line Road, and then more recently on Reservoir Road. And so we're eagerly anticipating these school zone speed limits to be lowered by Hanover High on Lebanon Street and Hubby next, because by statute, they're supposed to be 10 miles an hour under the posted speed limit, which is 25 over there.
You know what's weird? My car tells me the speed limits because it sees the signs. It doesn't see that going north from the large roundabout. It doesn't see that 25 mile an hour sign. I don't know why.
North from,
So you're passing the mini co-op.
Co-op.
yeah, once you pass it, you don't, it goes up to crazy, pretty fast.
No, he's going north, not
No,
going south.
going north. Yeah, I'm just pointing out a flaw in my car. It doesn't see that sign. It sees the one coming south, but it doesn't see the
Okay.
one north.
Let's.
Oh, from
You
the
think I'm
mini
digressing?
co-op
Yeah,
to,
it just, come
it might
on,
take
you're
us-
like going for a record here.
I don't, Athos, is it seeing it or is it getting the information?
No, it sees it. It
from-
looks for it.
It sees it. Okay. I was wondering, because some of them get it, the information from,
Yep. Other ones get them from the GPS. or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Final committee report?
She's not done yet.
Yeah, sorry. There was a meeting of the Hanover Finance Committee on January 4th, at which there was primarily focused on the Dresden and Hanover School District budgets as proposed. And the committee was positively disposed toward the proposed budgets for both districts. And additionally, the Hanover Education Association contract, which is the union contract with the teachers, has been tentatively agreed to, and the Hanover Finance Committee voted unanimously to support that new union agreement. Just for by way of information, the agreement calls for base increases. This is the cost of living increase for the first year, 2024. 5%, the second year, 2025, of 4%, and the third year, 2026, of 2%. So, but also by way of context, 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, so the previous 5 years, the COLA was 2%.
Okay.
So 5 years straight of 2%, and then a 5.42 for the coming 3-year contract.
So the faculty has voted affirmative on a 3-year contract?
The HEA has,
Yes.
the union has agreed to this, the school district has agreed to this, the finance committee is supportive. It will go as a warrant article
For a 3-year
for
contract.
the Dresden and Hanover meetings.
Great, congratulations, that's good,
Yeah,
that's good news, eh?
That's big.
Anything else, Carrie?
That's it.
Great. There has been a request for non-public session discussion pursuant to RSA 91:1:3, Roman numeral 2, A, B, D, E, and L.
Whitcomb, yes.
Gracias, yes.
Carter, yes.
Chamberlain, yes.
Callahan, yes.
We are in non-public session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, officer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.